attention to detail. I don't know any other circuit in the world that really matches Australia for detail.
Well, here's the Toyota team making their first attempt at qualifying here today for a Grand Prix after the year of preparation, the work with the test car. Mika Salo and Alan McNish will have their opportunity to qualify the Toyota Formula One car for the very first time, and I'm sure there'll be nerves aplenty down there in the Toyota pit garage, and they'll be looking forward to getting into the session and seeing what they can do. Not a bad job so far. Of course, they're not expecting great things this year, are they, John? It is definitely a development year for them.
It is a development year, but nonetheless, you know, the psyche of the Japanese nation, of the people of the Toyota company, is very, very clear, and they will have a distinct strategy mapped out. They're playing everything down because they know that there's enormous pressure on them. Expectations, for example, in Japan, immediately there's competition between Honda and Toyota, who's got the most powerful engine. Well, right now it seems that Toyota have won that particular race, but they're going head to head with the Japanese manufacturer Honda, and they know that that's going to be critical to the media response that they will get in Japan, let alone around the world. But they are the fourth largest car manufacturer in the world. They produce the most successful, the most popular car in the world, that's the Corolla. So, you know, all this is not just for fun. This is absolutely serious business for Toyota.
Yes, a huge investment, and it's something they're going to be applying more and more determination to over the coming years.
I think the other thing that's very interesting is already the kind of budgets that Toyota are applying to Formula One are probably only exceeded currently by Ferrari, and everybody believes that once this program does get up and underway and they get into years 2, 3, 4 and 5, that they're in a position to escalate their funds and budgets, where everybody else is trying to sort of step back and say, how can we cut back on our budgets?
But as we know, John, it's the money doesn't always make you a winner. Just look at Ferrari. I mean, they've been the best-funded team for many years, but it's only in the last few years, when everything has come together for them, that they have been able to take world championships.
Well, what's made the difference at Ferrari is they've got the right people to go to work at Ferrari. In effect, what they've got is a British team and a German driver driving for a car that's painted red.
Absolutely. Well, it's a very, very effective team, that combination of Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, Michael Schumacher. There's Nigel Stepney there as well, an important part of the Ferrari team, as you say.
I think the thing that you have to say about Ferrari is that they are a fantastic team. You've got to give Paolo Martinelli credit for that engine. It's a brilliant, brilliant engine. I went to Ferrari last year. I was taken around the factory by Ross Brawn. I was amazed. I'd expected something to be huge and grandiose. They are spending their money with the team. They're not spending it in all the other areas that other teams are doing. It is going into the team. They've got to trot down to Turin, to the Fiat board, present their budgets every year. Okay, they got a huge budget, but it is all accounted for, and there's no squandering or waste whatsoever.
Well, the Nick Heidfeld Sauber just being returned to the pits now. As we saw, it didn't seem to have any damage to it, but something had stranded it out on track. They've got a little bit of time now to try and get it ready before the start of the next free practice session. That's when we'll really begin to see some of the teams beginning to pump the fuel out, perhaps put a new set of tyres on and put in a true qualifying practice, as it were, at the end of the session, before qualifying itself gets underway a little later.
Ben, that's why these sessions, when we were able to record, watch everything from Friday morning through to Saturday before qualifying. But this session coming up, this final Saturday morning session before we go into qualifying, for me, in fact, is usually the best session of all prior to the Grand Prix, because it's the time when people do experiment. They've got to commit themselves at the end of this session. Once they've made that commitment for qualifying, they've got to go with what they've got, but they can still make changes, they can still try things without the pressure of having to go for a qualifying time. Remember, qualifying still only maximum of 12 laps, maximum of 4 sets of tyres, so it's a big, big pressure moment. Eddie Irvine, all the way down, currently, well, 21st quickest after that first session this morning. He looks quite relaxed. He probably knows the problems that he's had are ones that he can overcome, but nonetheless, he must be wondering, I've been here 3 years and it isn't really getting any better.
No, that's right. And to come back here to Melbourne, where he won in a Ferrari back in 1999, taking his first Grand Prix victory, which set him on the way to a real challenge for the title that year. And now here he is once again struggling with the Jaguar. It must be very, very depressing. But as you say, he seems to have a smile on his face. He seems to be able to cope with it and deal with it and get on with it. And that's exactly what he has to do.
Fernando Alonso, Renault's test driver, the man who stepped out of the Minardi seat and took the testing role at Renault, and really Jenson Button's the man who is going to be under the microscope all year, because if Jenson doesn't perform, you wouldn't have to be Einstein to think that that man, Fernando Alonso, will be in this car for the next season.
Yeah, not a comfortable position to be in, is it, John, when you're a driver for a team that has employed an extremely rapid test driver?
Just looking at that Renault, it's the first time we're getting real live pictures of the Renault team with the engine cover off. That's a very wide angle V, 110 degrees. Last year you couldn't even get a sniff of that sight of that engine. It is very, very low in the car. It's designed to help lower the center of gravity. There are some downsides to a very wide angle V, such as structural rigidity, but nonetheless it's a great improvement on last year, and it's going to be, I think, a team that will push very hard to get to be behind the top three. In other words, put Sauber, who currently are the fourth team, under pressure.
Yeah, I agree. Something I'm looking forward to this year is the resurgence of Renault. I think we can expect to see some good things developing through the year there, and hopefully Jenson Button will be very much a part of that. Down in the BAR Honda pits, there's plenty of work going on. Very interesting situation here, of course, with Dave Richards taking over the running of this team. This is the first Grand Prix that he's been in charge. Hasn't really had a chance yet to perhaps apply his touch, but I noticed, John, he was talking about a few years ago he ran the Benetton team, and he was saying in an interview that he regretted a little bit not making changes early enough when he was at Benetton. So I don't think he's going to sit around long before he makes changes there.
It's been about 3 months since Dave Richards took over at BAR, and he's been really just observing how the systems operate and putting his plans not into motion yet. That will happen throughout the year. It's going to take him, he reckoned, about a year to bring the team to the level that he would expect a team to be. You can't make these changes overnight, some of which will involve personnel, some of which will involve shifting people around within the company. But of course, to me, the big question about BAR is not about the team, but it's about Jacques Villeneuve. What is he going to do? He was very, very unhappy at Craig Pollock effectively being dismissed. I mean, Pollock wasn't dismissed, but he was put into such a position. Was he pushed or did he jump? He had to jump, but I mean, if the effect was a push behind him as he did the jump. So he was very unhappy about that. But he has got a contract. He said he's prepared to honour that contract, in spite of there being rumours prior to this weekend that Jacques Villeneuve may not drive. Now that rumour has been discounted. So certainly lots of speculation. But Jacques Villeneuve is going to have to do a lot of thinking about what does he want to do in Formula One in the future.